Hi, as you might guess from my cool glasses, I'm a designer. And as a designer, I have a question for you. Do you think, just think for a second, do you think that curing patients is a sustainable business model? Think about it. Well, I guess you're right, it's not at all. And that's not something that comes from me. It comes from a report from one of these famous consultancy firms, thinking about the treatment based on gene therapies. And they come to this conclusion, the fact that curing patients is not a good business model, indeed. It's better to keep people ill. You know, they're kind of more recurring customers. And you know what happens when I read things like this, which happens almost every day? You know what comes to my mind, what it reminds me of? Psychopaths. You know? Psychopaths behave exactly like corporations. They are people that only think about themselves, think about everything that is, they are driven by self-interest only. They are people that lack compassion or any kind of consideration for others. They lack what we call empathy. The thing is that we shouldn't be surprised about this. The very foundations of our system, of our economic kind of framework, is based on the very same principle, the fact that everything is just driven by self-interest. We shouldn't expect any kind of generosity from the market. That's fine. We build this system. We live in this system. We have business school just specialized on making the most efficient optimizing the market based on this principle. But the truth is that we, people, humans, are not exactly like that. We're a bit more sophisticated. We are not just driven by self-interest. We are not just driven by the search of just kind of shallow profit. We're driven by, we're kind of social animals. And a social animal means that we live and we only can survive in a community. And that means that we have to look after each other. We have to look for the interest of the community. Shared interest is also self-interest. But not only that. The truth is that we are not just driven by this we are not just searching for profit. We're searching for something that goes well deeper than that. We are defined as humans. Our human conditions is defined by this intense longing for meaning. We're able and capable of sacrificing ourselves for something like justice or freedom or love. I'm very familiar with that because I grew up professionally as an artist. And believe it or not, it's true that we are just driven by something like passion, which is this sense of duty and curiosity that drive our day-to-day. And this seems to contradict the very logic of the market, of the system we built. So I really struggled when I moved into the corporate world as a designer. And for me, it was quite difficult to understand something that was quite obvious for everyone. The fact that the only reason you were there working day to day, it was just for the benefit of something, for its own self-interest, with no any other consideration. So I would really, that's my thought from that very moment, I would really condemn, this is quite a dramatic way of putting it, but I would really condemn to serve the insatiable hunger of psychopaths. That we have to put our creativity, our desires, our dreams, just to serve the interests of something that only thinks about itself. So the good news is that the world is changing. It's becoming more complex. It's becoming more uncertain. So businesses have to learn to work, to find new ways of competing in this complex environment. And one of the good news is that one of the things that businesses have to do is to become more relevant in human terms. They need to be more competitive, and that means to be more relevant for us, for people. So they have to become what we call customer-centric businesses, or I prefer to put it as people-centric businesses. And guess who's in charge of making these businesses more people-centric? Well, people like me, designers. Design, I like to define it as the place where creativity meets empathy. Creativity is not more than this kind of human capacity of solving new problems in new, unexpected ways. It's something that helps us to survive during our whole evolution. And empathy is exactly what psychopaths lack. So designers, we work in this intersection between the world and us, people. We are the translators. Our only game, our only aim is to make this hosted world slightly more humane, slightly more beautiful, slightly more meaningful, more useful, and more kind. Our material is relationships. So, as businesses are struggling to survive and to thrive in this new context, they start hiring people like me. I think I'll be the responsible of them, but they start hiring designers just for the sake of making their products more relevant for people. So we can go in. We can go in to help them to be more competitive. But as we go and get inside the organizations, we all of a sudden have a great opportunity, which is opening the doors of this Trojan horse, of the transformational power of design. We can go in organizations and starting to hold the flag, to defend humanity, our human values, to drive and define the world of businesses in human terms. We can insert empathy at the very heart of organizations. So how can we do that? How we can set the foundations of this non-psychopathic economy, I guess? Well, what we have to do is to understand that we're in a transition, and designers are there to push this transition. We're in a world that is defined, as we said before, by this kind of constant, exhausting negotiation of two forces, the market and us, that drive in opposite directions, trying to extract as much as we can from each other. So what we'll have to do is to move from this transactional world into a world of relations. We have to look after each other, business and people. We have to become relevant. And in order to become relevant for people as businesses, the main goal we have is to build trust. I think trust is the most valuable asset of contemporary businesses. And it's also the most difficult one to get. And how do you get trust? How do you make yourself relevant and important for people? You do it by having a purpose. What the hell is this thing of a purpose? A purpose is a way of defining yourself as a business in relation to the others. It's embedding this capacity of empathy in the very definition, in the core definition of the business. I'm going to put you an example, a quite nice one to understand what it is this about. Think about IKEA. It's a very kind of well-known brand, very familiar for all of us. We can think about a business like IKEA as just a business that wants to sell as much furniture as possible. But they like to define themselves not towards the industry or towards the products. They like to define themselves toward us, people. And they say that the aim is to create a better everyday life for the many people. If you look at this definition, it's great because it makes IKEA, the fact that they can offer cheap furniture, not at low-cost kind of consumption, but as a way of democratizing beauty, democratizing harmony and well-being. So let's think about it for a minute and ask ourselves, what if we can embed empathy at the heart and the way we can define businesses from now on? What if, for example, we start defining the world of finance, and I guess many of you work on the fintech industry or into work in banking. What if we define our day-to-day job in finance as the way of enabling people's future, our family's future, our business futures? What if media, for example, and I have quite a lot of experience in the media world, becomes not just a way of getting clicks like crazy, but a way of helping people to make sense of this messy and uncertain world? What if technology stop being so self-centered and becomes a way of opening new possibilities for all of us? And what if, going back to the beginning, what if the pharmaceutical industry becomes the industry of just ensuring that we are just okay? What if? I leave this question for you. Thanks a lot.